Hi guys, this video I'll be talking about showing you guys how to configure the dynamic trunking protocol negotiation and 802.1q trunk and native VLAN. So continuing with the layer 2 LAN switching tutorial videos. So firstly I'll be configuring the 802.1q static trunks between switch 1 and switch 2 and switch 1 and switch 3 and then also changing the native VLAN between switch 1 and switch 2 to VLAN 100 and we're going to be basically configuring dynamic trunking protocol between switch 2 and switch 3 in the auto state. So I'll speak a bit more about that. So starting with the configuration on switch 1. Using the range command to speed things up a bit. So another thing we have to ensure is that the ports don't negotiate between switch 1, switch 2 and switch 1 and switch 3. So the command we'll use for that is going to be switch port no negotiate and no shut. So now if we check whether the trunks are forming. Most of the 4 ports have been configured to form the trunks. So moving on to switch 2. And again, sticking with the no negotiating and no shut. So let's have a look again. Oops. Right, the 2 ports have been configured. So switch 3 now. Well, the 2 ports connected to switch 1 have been configured as trunk, so that's fine. So just to double check whether the ports are negotiating or not, a good command for that is show interface Ethernet 0/0 switch port. Here we can see that the negotiation of trunking is off. So our objective achieved. So the second thing we'll be configuring is the dynamic trunking protocol between switch 2 and switch 3. We'll configure them in the auto state. So I'll talk a bit about that. So starting with switch 2. So the command we're going to use is switch port mode dynamic, and we have 2 options, auto and desirable. So the auto command puts the interface in the passive state of negotiating to form the trunk, whereas the desirable state, the desirable is the active state, where the the port is actively negotiating to form the trunk. So if both ends here of switch 2 and switch 3, if they're both configured as auto, the trunk will not be formed. But if one or both are configured as desirable, the trunk will be formed. So in this exercise, we will be configuring them both as auto. So the trunk should not be formed. So proceeding with that, and no shut. So doing the same thing on switch 3. Auto. So now if we look at the show interface trunk command, we can see that the two interfaces connected to switch 2 are not forming trunks. So whereas the ones configuring connected to switch 1 are forming trunks. So we can also check this command. So in this one, we can see that the negotiation of trunking is on. So looking at the topology, so the dynamic trunking protocol is being configured between switch 2 and 3. So the negotiation is on. Here we configured the negotiation to be off. So no negotiation happening here between switch 1 and switch 2 and switch 1 and switch 3. Whereas between 2 and 3, negotiation is happening. Another command that we can use to check about the dynamic trunking protocol is show DTP interface Ethernet 0/2. So we can see that the port is configured in the auto state and the trunk is not forming, so it's formed as access ports, and the DTP is, you see the timer is running, and the one connected to switch 1 here, the port was configured as to not negotiate, and the trunk is formed, and dynamic trunking protocol is not running, so there's no time, the timer is stopped. So these two commands can tell you a bit more about what's happening with the trunks. And finally, we'll be configuring the native VLAN between switch 1 and 2 we'll change it to VLAN 100. So proceeding that on switch 1. We can see that currently the native VLAN is 1. So we'll be changing that to VLAN 100. So the command that we use for that is going to be switch port trunk native VLAN 100. That should there we go. We can see that the native VLAN is at 100, and we'll start getting the native VLAN mismatch error between switch 1 and switch 2, because on switch 2 it's still configured as VLAN 1, which is the default. So you can see the error there. Face. Trunk native VLAN 1. Right, so the native VLAN has been changed to VLAN 100 on the two interfaces connected to switch 1, which was the objective in this exercise right here. So just to recap, quick recap, what we did was between switch 1 and 2 and switch 1 and switch 3, we configured the static 802.1q trunks. We configured and the other thing we did was to ensure that the ports, none of the ports negotiated, and we configured the dynamic trunking protocol between switch 2 and switch 3. We kept it in the auto state so that both the interfaces of switch 2 and switch 3 were in the passive state, so they were not actively negotiating, so the trunks did not form. And finally we changed the native VLAN to VLAN 100 between switch 1 and switch 2, and I demonstrated that the default native VLAN is VLAN 1 in the 802.1q protocol. So that's pretty much it. So any questions, comments, post them below, and I'll answer as many as I can. Thanks guys. Cheers. Bye.